Welcome to episode 61 of Sport SA Daily Diary. Today we're chatting to South African wheelchair tennis player Kgothatso Montjane. KG, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks, and how are you?
Yeah, very, very well, thank you. How's the last few weeks of lockdown been treating you?
Yeah, man, it's been tough. It's been tough days, Yeah, I mean, fact that there's just too much time to really do nothing, even if you establish a little bit of routine to do at home. At the end of the day, you still have so much time in your hand and you just don't know what to do sometimes. So
And
it's been really hectic.
and are you as much as you're a tennis player, are you a sport lover as well? Have you been missing the live sport on TV that we get so spoiled with in South Africa?
Most definitely, most definitely. Not being able to play, not being able to watch any sport. Yeah, I think it just makes everything worse,
Yeah.
because when you're so used to watch sports on TV, now with no live sports on TV, you just like, I really have nothing to actually watch on TV. So hence I said there's just too much time on hand because you can't even watch TV. It gets boring to watch highlights, repeated stuff because you watched them before, So it's just been tough, to be honest. I miss live sport. I miss soccer. I miss athletics. You can name it. So I just miss all that.
So other than tennis, what are the sports that you follow quite closely?
I follow soccer quite closely. Uh, Tennis, just a little bit, I follow, a little bit of golf. Athletics, like I said, those cycling and marathons that comes really early, just to check it out once in a while. I'm just a big fan of sport, to be honest. Yeah, so those are the things I miss most. Those weekends where you have to wake up early because you have to catch a certain race or cycling, and because during the day you have all the soccer on TV. So yeah, I follow quite a lot, even though I don't watch all of them.
I was chatting to Sean Pollock a couple of days ago, and he was also saying how he misses live sport. He even watches bowls when it's on. If it would come on now. So I think we're pretty desperate at the moment for some live sport.
Most
Could
definitely.
you tell us a bit about your story. You grew up in Polokwane, and from birth you had a rare congenital disorder. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I was born with a disorder called immunity band syndrome. So literally what happens is the embryo sac get damaged, and once it gets damaged, so those layers that are attaching themselves to the body parts, and they hinders the whole development of the body parts, like mostly on my limbs, my leg, my hands, they are not fully developed. So what happened to my left leg, I didn't have a foot at all. So
Sure.
whatever was there, they had to actually, cut it off and operate it so that I can walk. But I was still limping quite a lot. So when I was 12, the doctors decided to actually go through a proper amputation, and so that I can use a prosthetic leg, because when my parents tell me, they just didn't want me to have problems with my back and hip, as I grow up. So that's why they came to that decision of amputating me. And yeah, I end up using a prosthetic since the age of 12 until now.
That's quite a thing for a girl of the age of 12 to deal with. I mean, not only do it sort of affects your mobility, but obviously, I know how children are at that age and how fickle they are. I mean, it must have been pretty tough on you emotionally at that point.
You know, I was so fortunate that I went to, a special school,
Mm.
so there's just quite a lot of there were just quite a lot of kids with different disabilities, So it was sort of a moment where, because these things are being suggested from the school, with the doctors that come into the school being suggested to the parents. So it was sort of something that you just didn't know when it's going to be your turn to be going for a surgery and stuff like that. But being in a supportive environment like that, I didn't really have to feel much of it. But until I went out going back home, now I cannot, run around as I used to. Now everyone is sort of like, they just don't want to play anymore. So that part, it was just the frustrating part. But when I was back at school, it just felt like life was pretty much normal again.
Yeah. And I mean, tell us, you obviously started playing tennis at the age of 20, but were you playing any other sports before that?
Yes, most definitely. Actually, that's where they recruited me to come and play tennis. I was a very active learner at school. I played wheelchair basketball. I played table tennis. I was doing field events. So yeah, and I was really doing quite well in those activities at school. So when tennis came, for me, it came as a surprise because anyway, like I said, I was very active. I did everything, most activities, choir, traditional dance, ballroom dance. So when tennis came, I was in matric and I just felt like my plate is full. Like I can't take any more sport anymore when I'm in matric. So, but anyway, it didn't come as a question to me. I was actually being commanded to go and try out this sport. That's very new. So that's where it actually started. And yeah, I had to go try out something that I don't know, never saw it before, and it just happened.
And I mean, you took to it pretty quickly. I mean, that must have been around the early or mid to late 2000s. By 2011, you had already been voted the SA Disabled Sportswoman of the Year. I mean, that's a pretty quick rise in a sport that you'd only been playing for a few years.
Yeah, most definitely. I picked really, really quick in my career, even though I wasn't so familiar with a lot of stuff that involved the sport. What happened is I was always a very competitive, somebody when coming to sport. Because first time I went out there, seeing other kids playing, and I took a moment just to sit back and see what exactly they were doing. And I had to figure it out because I was so competitive. I remember I used to use both hands back then as I just started. So I used to play double backhanded in a wheelchair, which today it seems so impossible. I used to serve with my right hand, switch my racket to the left hand because it's the strongest hand. But today all that, it was impossible. So I had to figure it out. And obviously having a coach that actually saw so much potential in me and made me believe that I could be the best in the world. He always preached that in my head: you're the best, you've
Yeah.
got potential, you can do this. And with that in mind, when I went out there in the world to compete, like 2011, when I went out to compete full time on tour, I think, yeah, I just took a moment also to watch all these people, and I'm like, they know better than me. So the same mentality applied, and I just worked on that. I just relied on that word my coach always said in my head. And yeah, the next thing I found myself, beating Natalie Detroit in the sports awards, and I just thought, oh, this is awesome. So
Yeah.
there's so much to stay here for and keep playing the sport.
And I mean, tell me, during that phase that you were going through, Gagey, did you have somebody that you were looking up to, like another tennis player or somebody else in sport that you were kind of using as a role model?
I don't wanna lie to you that by that time I had any role models in sport. I was just in this sport that I don't even know, I don't even understand, but I seem to be doing pretty much well with it. And as I see people doing well, I was that player who copied how other people play. It took me some time to actually have my own style of play because I always wanted to play like whoever.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really looking up to anyone because I didn't know much about the sport. I only started reading much about tennis in 2013 when I made it to my first Grand Slams because I couldn't understand why people are making it a big deal. Isn't it just like any tournament that we go to? That's when I actually started reading much about sport and actually following certain players, reading their stories, and that's when I was like, oh, so this is more than just going to the national championships. So it actually took me some time to actually get into the sport. I think 2013, that's when I had a clear picture of actually what I was doing. But growing up, for me, I thought it was just a norm, or it was just habit one has to have, playing sport. So I thought that's what one has to do.
I mean, just hearing you talk and what you say, I mean, then you had an absolute meteoric rise in tennis. I mean, a few years later, you were number 5 in the world. So going from a girl who doesn't really know much about the sport, holding the racket in the incorrect hands or the incorrect form, to going to number 5 that quickly. I mean, that's an unbelievable rise in the sport.
Yeah, most definitely it was. But the unfortunate part by that moment, it was 2013 when I know the internet says 2005, but it was 2013 when I actually achieved that ranking of 5. That's when I was beating all the top players. I remember one tournament in South Africa, playing the number 1 seed in Benoni in Ellis Park, beating her, back to back. In Japan, beating world number 3. So I was just doing well. But for me, having to be number 5 in the world by that time, I didn't know what it meant. For me, I was just enjoying the feeling of winning and beating all these people. Everyone, normally say, no, you drew Yiski Griffon. She's so dangerous. And I come back, I'm like, but I beat her. So I was just enjoying that, but I just didn't really look deep into it, that this means being a top player. This means being, amongst the best in the world. So I think just my lack of knowledge didn't really help me back then, because I think if I had a better knowledge back then, I could have cemented on that, and I could have even made sure that I maintain and improve on that, because not having better knowledge, I saw myself at some point dropping down the ranks. So, and it was really, really frustrating when that happened.
But I mean, with that said, could you not almost reverse that and say, because of your lack of knowledge and know-how of the other players and stuff, that may have actually stayed you in good stead, because you went into matches not concerned about who you're playing, because you just thought you would beat them anyway?
Most definitely, I had no pressure at all, to be honest. So it was good. It was good at that point, because I didn't mind anything. I just thought tennis, it was just all about pushing faster and hitting the ball over the net. But
Yeah.
anyway, coaches are working on you. They're watching you. They're filming you. And when they figured me out, I just felt like I there's nothing I can do anymore. These people are figuring me out now. They're just beating me like I never beaten them before. So that got frustrating. I wasn't aware that people really actually do that. They film you. They go through what you're doing step by step, and I wasn't even into that. I didn't grow up with coaching. Even when the coach speaks, sometimes I'm just like, but what matters is I'm winning, I'm playing, I'm hitting the ball over the net. So what's the fuss? So I didn't understand the whole concept back then. So yeah, but you're right. I didn't have pressure at all by then.
And Casey, I mean, you've had an incredible record. I mean, you're one of the most successful South African sportswomen to date. 29 singles titles. You've been South African Sportswoman of the Year 6 times. You've played in all 4 majors in a year. You've made semi-finals of the major. You've been to the Paralympics in 2008, 2012, 2016. I mean, I can just carry on and on and on and on about your accolades and your results. Has there been a standout moment in your career that you look back now and say, sure, that was quite something. I'm actually bloody proud of myself?
There's so many moments, Adam. There's so many moments that when I look back now, I'm like, sure, how did I even get there? Looking at my first Paralympics, Adam, I was just like, what? a year and couple of months into the sport, and the next thing I'm into Paralympics. I don't understand why am I out here. For me, getting to Paralympics, seeing so many people, I'm like, oh, actually I could have done javelin, I could have done better, because those are the sports I knew properly. Oh, could have played table tennis. They play table tennis here. No, but I can't enter the competition. You're here for tennis. I go play tennis, stadium is full of people. I'm like, oh, I play first set, it's so hot. I give up on the second set because I couldn't handle the heat. And the rest of it, I'm eating McDonald's. I'm like, so it's just so cool to be out here. I didn't know what it meant. When I look at a moment like that a year and couple of months into the sport, you made it to Paralympics. What's Paralympics? When I read about that, every sportsman and women's dream to be in those games, I'm like, shoo, here I am. I just got into that without even knowing where I was going. So when I look at moments like that, I'm like, unbelievable. I wish I could have done it differently, but I was just an amateur back then. And obviously the Wimbledon moment, unbelievable. I'm still catch, I still get goosebumps when I talk about Wimbledon because it was unexpected. It was during tough times of my career, and here I am, pieced to a bigger tournament without a coach and go all out to win a match. And the next thing, the South African are passing, and I don't even understand why are you passing, only to find out I'm the first black female tennis player to actually have been made it to Wimbledon and even to win a match.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one coming. Even today, I'm still shocked that something like that happened. And yeah, man, there are those moments. There's quite a lot of them.
And I mean, you're also the first African wheelchair tennis player to ever have reached all four majors in 1 year. That as well. I mean, your career
Yeah.
is, I think, being slightly modest here. I mean, your career is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You see, when you mention things like that, I mean, I remember my coach like being like, KJ, are you really aware of actually what you have achieved? I'm like, for me, I just want to win the slam at the moment. That's one thing that I want at the moment. The fact that I can win a round, get to the semis, it really means I can get to the final. That's what I'm focused about. And honestly, I tend to forget all those things that here you are, you've been in the 4 Grand Slams in the same year. So I forget about things like that because I was just like, oh, if I can, for me, it was just like, I want to win a round. Now I won a round. So what do you want now? I want to win a slam. So that's where my mind is at the moment. So I forget to actually think about achievements like that sometimes. But during tough times, my coach actually has to remind me who I am, where I come from. Things like that. Sometimes I really need to, he says, I really need to take them into consideration because, where I feel down, they can serve as motivation. But for
Mm.
me, I always on to the next step. Like, now I want this, now I want it more. Now I can see the bigger picture. So, yeah.
I mean, your drive and your determination is exemplary. I mean, if you look at, if you, for example, a football team, they thrive on winning, and they thrive on that confidence that's given them. That I'm sure that you do the same thing. KG, talking about the four majors, what is the difference in terms of, from a wheelchair tennis perspective, playing on the different surfaces? Are there any that are more specifically difficult than others?
Yeah, honestly, playing on hard court, it's pretty much easy. It depends between US Open and Australia. The other one is slower, the other one is faster. So,
Yeah.
but the wheelchair really moves quite smoothly on the hard court. So I would like to think most players, we prefer to play on a hard court. Because going on clay sometimes depends on the type of clay you're playing on. You go to Roland Garros, the clay is harder, but as you do 10, sometimes you slide. So you lose
Yeah.
balance, you get out of position. And being an South African or an African, I've got no way to prepare actually when coming to
Yeah.
clay court. So you have to actually figure it out during, the match. Okay, this is what I need to do, or practices. Sometimes you just don't have timing. You just don't have control at all. And you
Yeah.
get to grass, there's no momentum of the chair at all. You use your arm on everything. You pushing. You can't even use your upper body to just like, let me do what I do on a hard court. If I just use my upper body, I can still, flow. On grass, you're stuck. Everything is in the arms. And it's not flawless, but yeah, it's quite difficult on other surfaces. But you just need to figure it out actually quickly and adapt and see how can you win. And sometimes you just have to rely on your strength. I mean, if you have a big serve on grass, just use it. Keep the points shorter, because the rally is never gonna go over like 5 or 6 shots, to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, talking about the strength needed, obviously there's a lot of reliance on your upper body, your arms, shoulders, and stuff. Does your training allow, obviously, for that? Do you do specific training on sort of building weight in your arms and your shoulders?
Yeah, like honestly, last year for the first time, because I just moved to a high performance center in Pretoria. So for the first time, I had to prepare properly for the grass tournaments. So my trainer made sure we do a lot of resistance stuff. We pushing on grass. We know way closer to the hard court. We tried to play tennis on a hockey field. The wheelchair couldn't move at all, but I had to keep pushing. That heaviness is what was needed, because getting to Wimbledon, the grass is a little bit lighter. So I could still push, but to strengthen the arms, that was the most important thing, because everything is just the arms, hitting the ball. Like it's on grass, I feel like one is even muscling the ball, just other than just, hitting the ball naturally. So last year we prepared properly, and we came across, a former, I think, Grand Slam defending champ in the first round, and you know what, I managed to handle that match. And for me, it was like preparation is actually important. So I do prepare for tournaments. Like I started last year to prepare for, different surfaces. Just unfortunate on clay. That's the one I just can't prepare properly.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk now of moving to the high performance center and training with the coach, Gerald Stoffberg, I think it is. What are your goals, KG? Because obviously now you're getting a bit more sort of serious about your tennis. You've mentioned obviously winning a Grand Slam, but is the dream also to become number one?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that has been the goal since I started seeing good players out there, and since the era of Esther Ferrier dominating, being number one for so many years. And I was so convinced that I'm going to be the one taking it down. And she retired before I even got better. So being number one is just one of the goals, because if I can get to 5 and I can be like, 400-500 points between, 2 to 5, it really shows how possible it is. So being number one is still one of the goals. So, but whatever comes first, winning a slam or being number one first, that would be biggest achievement of my career. And I think that's when I would even think of haying the racket,
Well, just win the slam that takes you to become number one, and you get both in one go.
Exactly.
Kaji, just in closing, I mean, it couldn't have been easy to get into the sport. It couldn't have been easy to get over the loss of your leg. What advice would you give to a youngster in a similar position who has also maybe has a disability, is feeling a bit blue, but, wants to, looks up to somebody like you and says, wow, if KG can do it, I can do it. What would you sort of say to them to give them a lift and give them the confidence that they can also get to become a future champion?
What I would say to them, it will be that don't look down on yourself. You are human. Your disability does not define you or your abilities. So you are human. You are talented as everyone. just put yourself out there, because dreams don't become reality through magic. They become reality through hard work and determination. So that's what I can tell them. If you really want your dreams to come true, you have to put yourself out there and work for them. So don't feel sorry for yourself, because it's when you start feeling sorry for yourself, the world also start feeling sorry for yourself, and that's a downfall.
Yeah, very, very wise words. KG, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you today on Sport SA Daily Diary. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the season when I presume it starts again, and hopefully we'll see you as world number one very, very soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Don't miss tomorrow's episode of Sport SA Daily Diary, where Richard Murray tells us about one of the greatest triathlon sprint finishers ever.